Being a star is not a good place. If you ever get there, in the end, it catches up with you. In the end, you find the longer you're there, the worse it is in many different ways. The story of Justin Tucker, the Hall of Fame field goal kicker for the Baltimore Ravens, is a pretty good example. This is a legitimate question, okay? Because there's a lot of directions you can go with this, not having a lot of information yet. But what's Justin Tucker supposed to do or say? Here's a generational NFL player who is on his way to the Hall of Fame. I would assume, I guess you could argue, depending on how things play out off the field, but I assume he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has a reputation as one of the nicest guys, hardworking guys in the entire sport. For full disclosure, I know him and I know his family. So if you said, man, Jeff, you don't have full clarity, I would accept some of that. But I don't think you need full clarity yet because there's no way you're going to have it right now. We are stuck in a land of how you take his public performance, how you take his personal statements, how you take the Baltimore Ravens statements, how you take the NFL statements. I mean, you're really stuck in a place where it is all gray as of right now. So you're going to judge on how things are being handled publicly. And then you're going to have to figure out, I'll do it with you, what are the paths forward to what is turned into a pretty ugly story that is sort of hovering over the NFL. Not sort of, it is hovering over the NFL as we speak. I'm asking these questions not to diminish the significance of the story or even to give him a break. It really is about how a star deals with or doesn't deal with an ugly story. And maybe these things happen. I mean, maybe there is something there. I don't know. And I'm not sure we're going to know for certain. Okay, so let me stop there. Justin Tucker is not involved in a criminal case. He's not involved in a civil case. It's not Deshaun Watson 2.0. And here's why. Deshaun Watson was involved in what ended up being 22 civil cases, not criminal cases, civil cases over massage therapists, 22 separate, I believe that it was 21 or 22 separate harassment claims, civil claims over the course of several years. But here is a reality. I mean, you can't dismiss the public relations, the optics of this whole story. You just can't, whether it involved Justin Tucker or not. We could say this about anybody. You can't, because of the Deshaun Watson story. Those optics are there, right? And the Deshaun Watson scandal creates a narrative that's a problem. It's very much a problem for the NFL. It's very much a problem for the Baltimore Ravens. And it's a problem publicly for Justin Tucker. All of them. You can think that's fair or unfair. It doesn't matter. That is the optics of today. That's the narrative of today. That backdrop is going to hang over anybody involved in a scandal in the NFL right now. He's not being sued and he's not settling. He's in a war of public opinion, which creates a problem for the Ravens because the story creates a problem for the NFL, and the NFL hates this stuff. Okay, here's a quick story, and I'll give you an example of how triggering might be the right word. Triggering things have become because of what the general manager of the Baltimore Ravens has just said. But the summary is this. The Baltimore Banner, yes, has reported that 16 massage therapists from 8 spas and wellness centers in the Baltimore area have accused Justin Tucker of inappropriate sexual behavior. There's not criminal cases. There's not civil cases. This dates back almost 10 years now. The Ravens general manager, Eric DeCosta, went public, which is a little surprising, and you can read into that whatever you want. I don't think your reactions are going to be wrong because you're going to have to read into the optics. You're going to have to read into how this thing is handled publicly until something is settled one way or another. He called the allegations serious and concerning. Okay? This is NFL.com reporter. Is it Nancy Batista or Danielle Batista? She was on with Dan Patrick earlier today, and I do think this is an accurate reaction. I mean, this is a legitimate reporter. This is not a talk show host. This is not somebody on a message board. This is somebody who covers the NFL for a living, and react to what she says about these allegations.
How awkward is the situation asking the Ravens about Justin Tucker?
Yeah, I have to say, Eric DeCosta, the general manager, said more than I expected. I thought they would defer completely to the NFL. You know, there's an NFL investigation, so we're not going to say anything. It's an active investigation. We're not going to say anything. And for him to say the number of allegations is concerning was frankly further than I expected him to go. They obviously know that those questions are coming, so I don't feel particularly bad for them that they're getting questioned about it. It is, it's troubling because it just came out of nowhere, it feels like, and now it has ballooned. The number of allegations just is growing and growing and growing. And again, the NFL is investigating. And I mean, as a football player, he is an all-time great. Maybe the greatest kicker in the game ever. But certainly this has cast a pall over the Ravens. It sort of makes you go back and think, like, when he was struggling on the field in the middle of the season, like, is this why? We don't know the answer to that, but you do wonder what the Ravens are going to do, because he was struggling at kicking. Now there's this. Does this give them the opening to move on from him? Do they stick with him? Do they think that this will all be resolved and that will also resolve his struggles on the field? Very, very interesting. And again, I thought Eric DeCosta went further than I ever expected them, even just admitting that it's concerning.
Yeah, this isn't Justin Tucker from 5 years ago where he was not expendable. He's expendable now. And right. The fact that, John Harbaugh said, hey, we're looking at kickers, should tell you everything about this. How awkward is the situation?
There you go. All right, so that's it's Judy Batista, reporter for NFL.com, on with Dan Patrick. It's a pretty good summary, and it's a pretty good reaction that typically a club is not going to say much. Again, you can say, oh, people are reading too much into this or not enough. That's fair. I'm not going to sit here and say any reaction is wrong, including his. But there's a few things there. One, as I said, no matter what happens in a scandal with any player with allegations like this, the Deshaun Watson thing is hanging over everyone. The NFL, probably for good reason, is hypersensitive. The Ravens, now here's what I think to her point about she was surprised that the general manager even made the comments that he did. I think there's more to it than that, and that is the Ravens were at one time the epicenter of stories like this. Ray Rice, a star player running back for the Ravens, caught on video, punched his girlfriend, the later fiance, now they're married, punched her in the face. The NFL didn't, this thing is released publicly. The NFL hadn't done anything or said anything, and they were caught looking like they were hoping it would go away and never wanted to say anything about it. And they got ripped to shreds publicly. The NFL pivots then to show we will react to this. The commission of the NFL was under a ton of heat for trying to hide from the story, which was a fair allegation. So they turned around and pivoted and brought in a former prosecutor on sexual assault cases, and they are hypersensitive to it. And then you fast forward, and then not long after, the Deshaun Watson scandal breaks and breaks and breaks. And this is a young superstar at the time, and he's accused by massage therapists who are all suing him in different suits. The Texans suspend him, and that is a dumpster fire. So, there's those backdrops, I think, hang over this story. Whether that's fair or unfair to Justin Tucker, that's just the way it is. Unfortunately for him, there's history with other people and other reactions. So he's gone public, and I think you can go any number of ways with this. He's gone public, and he's said, I think I would argue he said about all he can. I think there's an explanation for that, too. I maintain I did not act inappropriately at any point before, during, or after a professional body work treatment session. These claims are simply not true. I can assure whoever's reading this that I've never intended to disrespect anyone, cross any boundary, or make anyone feel uncomfortable in any way whatsoever. It devastates me to know that anyone I've worked with would not have felt respected and valued as a professional. I'm sorry. I want you to know I'm committed to ensuring that everyone I interact with feels that I respect them and I care about them as a human being. And that was a statement that was issued, I guess that was yesterday or late in the day yesterday. So it's a weird setup. The NFL does not want to look dismissive. The Ravens, for sure, don't want to look dismissive. Is it unfair, the setup here? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It might be. But maybe had these stories been hanging around for years, you would say, why this, why now? Then again, it could mostly be bogus. He just said, didn't go to the top of the mountain and start screaming, but he said this is not true. So what can and should he do?
Hey, Austin, Jeff Ward here, and I never thought I'd be in an accident and need a personal injury attorney. And then sure enough, less than a mile from my house, I was blindsided. I was injured. My world was turned completely upside down. I called DJC Law and their team took care of everything. I got the best result possible. Don't just take my word for it. They have over 1,000 five-star reviews. So if you're injured, call 512-888-9999 and get your justice at teamjustice.com.